So I mentioned in a previous story time of what I called the chin incident, where I had somebody knee me in the chin and I almost lost my teeth. And I figured I would go into a little bit more detail because it is a weird story, but one that I have never, I don't think, told even on live streams or anything. Basically, all through high school, I was really into Krav Maga. If you don't know what Krav Maga is, it's basically the like martial art that's used by the Israeli army. It's super hardcore. It's not about looking pretty or fluid or anything. It's about getting out of a tough situation, even if I have to gouge your eyes out. Like, it's very, very hardcore. And it was really, really cool to spend years and years studying it and practicing it. Got in phenomenal shape. I met with my buddy Caleb. We went to a Krav Maga Institute and did a bunch of training there. And at one point, they brought in a retired assassin from the Israeli army, whose like code name was the Black Widow. And the thing that was fascinating about this is that he stood at maybe like 5'3" tall. He was a tiny dude, but oh my God, this guy was stronger than anybody I've ever met. He was a fiend with Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I can't talk. Brazilian jiu-jitsu. If he was in the UFC, I have no doubt he could compete one or two weight classes above him and be totally fine, probably be champion. That level of crazy. And it makes you wonder just how many people are out there that are that level of athlete and just freaks of nature that never go into like athletics or professional sports or anything, but instead going to like hyper elite special forces like he did. It's always made me curious and wonder if that happens more frequently or not. But this guy was a freak of nature in every way. Krav was generally a really, really good thing for me at that time. It was something I still look back on very fondly. And I've always said, like, if I ever did one of those YouTuber streamer boxing events for charity, I think my opponent might be in for a rude awakening, because I've had a good amount of pretty intense training in a nasty form of martial arts, but maybe we'll cross that bridge eventually. I don't know. But what happened on this particular day is we were in a class for Krav Maga, and one of my friends, Dennis, was in the class with us. He was doing like I don't know if it was a visitation, I don't really recall, but we were doing a training thing. And basically what this was we were doing supersets, combining a bunch of compound movements. In this case, we had big, thick pads that were like this thick and maybe about that big, kind of looked like a pillow, but they were hard foam and with like a black leathery wrap around them. And you would hold it kind of on your chest, holding it down. And then this person that you were training with would come in and would knee up on the pad. And then the teacher or whatever would yell out, switch, and then you'd switch positions. So usually that would mean you change the pad over and then you'd do roundhouse kicks, or you'd flip it back and then you would be doing like spinning heel kicks or whatever it was. And you do all of these compound movements together over the course of like a 5-minute superset, nonstop, very intense, tremendous workout, and pretty killer. I mean, it was awesome. But my poor friend Dennis, after a minute or two, he stopped listening. So at the point where we're doing the knees, and basically he had like his hands kind of around my neck right there and was throwing these knees up into this pad that I was holding on my chest, practicing his knees. And when the teacher yelled out switch, I was going to swap to the like side kick. I think it was probably a side kick. So I would move it completely off center of mass for him to do roundhouse kicks. He didn't hear switch. And I'm sure you know where this is going. He had his hands around my neck, basically, throwing those knees. And when the teacher yelled switch, I moved to put it in position for the roundhouse, except he threw another knee. So his knee went straight up, kind of skipped past the pad right where my hand was, because it had moved. So his knee skipped up and landed smack jab right center of my chin, like right there. Immediately he knew what had happened. I knew what had happened as well, but I was a little dazed, as you can imagine. I remember my teeth and my mouth made a weird crunch sound. And you know how like you're eating chips and you can't hear anything because it's just crunching in your own skull? He probably heard a snap or a crunch or something when he kneed me right in the teeth, right in the mouth. But for me, going through my bones, it was like somebody popped like a handful of crispy potato chips or something right there. It was a sound I'll never forget, and I don't think I could adequately describe, but it was just the most awful sound where deep down in your monkey brain, you know something just went very wrong. And I knew, okay, this isn't great. And I could feel with the back of my tongue on the back of the teeth, or with my tongue on the back of my teeth, I could feel that my teeth were a little loose all of a sudden. And I remember Dennis's face, poor Dennis's face, super pale. It was an honest mistake. It's not like he was trying to hurt me, but it was just lost focus for a second. We both kind of made an oopsie. I moved too quickly without verifying he was moving and changing positions. And then he didn't swap stances. So we both made an oopsie. It was just an honest mistake, but he turned so pale, calls over the teacher, immediately he comes over and the teacher looks and immediately like goes full medic mode and like pulls the lip down and is checking everything, looking on the inside of my mouth and everything. And he's like, you need to go to the dentist now. You need to go to the dentist now. So, okay. And I couldn't really talk because just like imagine trying to talk, but not touching any of your bottom teeth with your tongue at all. Okay, I will go and can you call my mom or can you call someone to come drive me there? It's a little intense. So basically my mom had come when she found out what was happening and offered to drive me to the dentist. Cause I don't know if my teeth are about to fall out. I have no idea. Like, what do you do? I don't know what you do. So she thankfully came with me to the dentist. They looked in my teeth. And basically what the dentist did is he was not an orthodontist, but he was able to do an emergency kind of hold it together thing where he had like a little wire that went along the back of my teeth. And then he put this like temporary concrete effectively all along the back of my teeth. And it felt like when you have a piece of bubble gum chewed up and then you kind of squish it on the back of your teeth. That's what it felt like. And my teeth were very, very sore and it ached. I remember all the way down, like all through here, all along the jaw. It was just aching and sore. And then the next day when I woke up before going to the orthodontist, because they sent me home and were like, well, the orthodontist can't get you in today. So you're going to have to live with this for a day or so. And then tomorrow go to the orthodontist and they'll figure out what they have to do. And I remember the next day when I woke up, it was also in my jaw, like the joint, because the hit had pushed my jaw straight up into the socket. So even the socket was bruised. And so when we got to the orthodontist, they did x-rays and everything, and they showed me the scans. I wonder if I could get them. I honestly don't know. But basically the scan showed like the tooth socket with the tooth supposed to be all the way down, but the tooth was like hanging on. He was like, honestly, if there was not the concrete and the wire, you could reach in and just pull your teeth out. He's like, that's how loose they are in there. But he said, because they're secured in position, what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the concrete. We're going to set them, but we're also going to set them using braces so they're held in perfect position. So me as like a senior in high school, I had these like, they put braces on. I had already got my braces off at like 13, 14 years old, but they had gone back in and they put braces just from like here around the front to hold my teeth in position to prevent them from falling out. And once they had done that, secured the bottom ones, they then went and removed all the concrete and the wire and everything out. And after, I don't remember if it was like 6 months or how long I had them on, but probably about 6 months. I think I got them off before the end of senior year. And then they put like a permanent little like metallic retainer on the bottom to continue holding my teeth, just to make sure they fully set over the next year or two. And then everything was fine. And I haven't really had any other issues since then, but it was pretty freaky to be like a kid basically and to almost lose like 4 of your bottom teeth, potentially 5 or 6, because the side like little canines were also a little loosey goosey. all from just an honest little mistake. And like hindsight's 2020. You can be like, oh, well, you should have been wearing a mouth guard while doing it. Well, if everything was the way it was supposed to be, he's kicking the pad or kneeing the pad, and then we transition and he knees that. You don't really need the pad or the mouth guard. But in this perfect storm of he screwed up and I screwed up at the same time, this happened. You know, if he had still thrown another knee, but I hadn't moved the pad off, it would have just hit the pad. And I would be like, no, we're switching. And he's like, oh, okay. And it would have been fine. And that probably happened many times, but we just don't consciously remember that because it's just such a non-issue. And if I had moved the pad too quick, but he had heard switch, it wouldn't have been an issue because he would have been like, oh yeah, we're switching. It was just because we both screwed up at the same time that this happened. And so it was an honest mistake. You know, it's not his fault. It's not all my fault. Like it's an honest mistake. I don't really know where to go from there. It was just, I almost got my teeth knocked out. That's the whole story. That's what I call the chin incident. It could have been very, very bad, but everything ended up working out. Lesson learned, be cautious, be overly cautious when you're training anything physical like that. And you will not regret it because it only takes one quick little oopsie to potentially screw up your face forever. So that's my story. Thank you for listening. If you want to hear more story times, ask me questions or prompts or whatever in the comment section, and I'll see if I have any fun stories related to that stuff. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening and all of that. I appreciate every single one of you. Stay safe out there. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye. He took my thing.